I'm so excited to be able to talk with you. This is James Love, a very solid financial advisor, our financial advisor at Northwestern Mutual, and I wanted to take a moment to introduce him. And I think he's going to deliver us some phenomenal content, just big picture what somebody like himself can do and can offer. And so James Love, I'll give you the floor real quick, man, if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. I appreciate that. Yeah. And thanks for having me on. I mean, you guys have been my realtors as well, and love working with you guys every step of the way and sending clients to you guys often, and have had nothing but great things to say about you and Alyssa. So I appreciate you having me on, and looking forward to it. Yeah. So I'm from the middle of nowhere, Texas. Grew up with a town of graduating class of 94 people. One of those stories where my dad was extremely financially savvy, 401k with work, hundreds of thousands of stocks, 40 acres of land, house completely paid off. Outsider's perspective looking in, looked like he had everything taken care of. Whenever I was 3, he was diagnosed with melanoma, so it was skin cancer. And from there, went to try to get some long-term disability contracts, long-term care, denied everywhere because of pre-existing conditions. So from that point on, I went through all those things, depleted assets, passed away shortly thereafter, and left behind my mom, a single parent school teacher, to raise 2 kids. So as you know, David, in the state of Texas, school teachers make a ton of money. So we were rolling in the dough, right? Fortunately enough for me, at the early age of 8, my mom allowed me to take some of that Social Security money and to put it away towards the future. So at the age of 8, I bought my first CD. It wasn't Britney Spears or NSYNC at the time. It was a certificate of deposit. I then graduated to mutual funds at 12, and then bought AT&T stock at 16, and then I day traded the futures and commodities market in college, Texas State, eat 'em up cats.
Yeah.
Yep. And so from there, I knew I needed an internship. Started with Northwestern back in 2012, and have been doing it ever since. I've been doing it for a little over 8 years, and truly love what I do.
Fantastic, man. I really appreciate you taking a moment to share that. I mean, it goes deep and for what fundamentally you went through, and it made you who you are, a well-rounded individual. That's good stuff, and you can tell that where you came from. I mean, you started learning at an early age. I mean, that's good stuff. And so, James, at Northwestern Mutual, right? Remind me, you are the director of
financial planning, essentially. Yep.
Excellent. So as a financial advisor, and that's kind of what this call is about, right? I want to go into the insight of what is a financial advisor, right? What is, somebody like you being in somebody's corner, the value that you are able to give, the peace of mind, the clarity, right? So I guess what I wanted to ask you right now to, start out, what is a financial advisor?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. David. So I'll first say what a financial advisor isn't. So I think it may be easier because sometimes people get these confused. So financial advisor isn't, your banker typically is not the CPA or an investment guy or just an insurance person. Really, a financial advisor is, someone who looks at all the resources that somebody has, from savings accounts to benefits with work, to the wills and trusts, the different insurance policies, investment accounts, or it could be real estate holdings, that one has, and looks at how do we make sure that we're connecting them essentially to their vision of the short term, the midterm, and the long term, and minimizing taxes any way that we can along the way. Well, at the end of the day, giving you guys the courage and the opportunity and the confidence to not have to worry about, doing this on your own, where you're able to spend time, living the life that you want, spending time with the family, the time that makes you the most money, whatever it may be. That's where we come into play.
Excellent. I think that's good stuff. And, keeping it very basic and simple, like, the concept for everybody to be able to digest, right? With making and earning money, you're going to spend a little, you're going to save a little. And then what would the third one be, right? You're going to need, I guess taxes, right? I mean, you're going to have basically more, it's more than those 3, but I'm just saying, right? To diversify where your money's going and to have somebody help you with that knows what they're doing, I think is the first step. So that's what a financial advisor is, right? So you as a resource, James, I consider you a resource to me. What are, elaborate further on what that means, right? You know, the resources that you provide and the services that you can do, and you know, the general outlook.
Sure. Yeah. So as we look at it, I would say take a step back and say that the fool learns from his mistakes. The wise man learns from others' mistakes. I've been a fool many, many times in the past with a lot of things. And fortunately for the clients that we work with that are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, we can see exactly what they did and the things that they wish they would have done or things that they're glad they did, and give you guys essentially the foresight and some learning there. So a good analogy would be if you look at Michael Phelps as an example, arguably the greatest swimmer of all time. My wife loves him. Morgan, I don't know if it's because of the gold medals or if it's because of the Speedo, but we can put that to the side. And if you look at him, he has multiple coaches, right? He's got his head coach, he's got his dietitian, his workout coach, and his swim coach. And so, as Michael's, in the water swimming, his swim coach is able to look down at him and just realize that one simple tweak of the wrist to the left, just by a couple degrees, right, will increase his trajectory, right? Get him to where he wants to go sooner, or he's going to take on less effort. And so a good story there would be with a client of mine I have over in Colorado. And he's one that makes great income. He's in a very, very high tax bracket. And so he's one that also has different investment properties in Colorado. And he's been doing this for about 4 years, as well as his oil and gas job, making $500,000 of income. So when looking at his different pieces of the portfolio, he has a CPA, he has an asset manager that he was already working with, and coming in, we realized that there was an area of opportunity for him where he was not taking advantage of enhanced depreciation on his real estate portfolios, his rentals. And his wife, who is not working, stays time with the kids and works on the real estate portfolios. We realized that she could essentially claim the investment real estate professional designation, if you will. And by doing that little tweak, it saved him $100,000 in taxes. Right, already works with a couple people in place that they were unaware of, but just that one little tweak, right, going forward is going to make a massive difference in that case.
The small change like that with such a big impact, right? I guess it's almost like the 80-20 or 20-80, right? 20% of the people do 80% of the work. I mean, just that small little adjustment can make such a big impact, and that's true value for sure. That's great.
Yeah.
I am extremely fascinated with the importance of real estate in somebody's portfolio. And I think you and I would both maybe agree that, for everybody going with a long-term vision and with the ability, if somebody puts their mind to something, I truly believe anybody can make it happen. And that would be having some real estate in your portfolio. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about what your thoughts were personally about what real estate, percentages. And I know we don't need to go percentages, but whatever you feel comfortable on why that is good.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree with you there. I think and believe truly that real estate's a great asset class, right? I mean, if you think about it, it has forced appreciation. Potentially it has some tax benefits. And then more importantly, for the long term, if you're utilizing it as a rental or something like that, it creates that mailbox money, right, in that flow. And at the end of the day, which is what we all want. One day, for a lot of the clients that I work with, they want to take their 401ks, their IRAs, and Roth accounts, and they want to spin that down and have it be income, right? Real estate is another version, another asset class where over time you can accumulate these properties, right? You can pay them off, whatever it may be, and other people can pay you, right? In this case, the form of income. And so I would agree that real estate is a phenomenal asset class. It's a great asset to have within the mix of one's portfolio, regardless of one's age or demographic, I would argue.
Yeah. In mailbox money, essentially, right? That's where, I think the best outlook of mailbox money is basically having money earn money, or some type of investment earn money. And it's, it's not a matter of the effort that you put in and working, it's mailbox, it's consistent, it's going to be coming in. When James mentions things like an IRA or, some other type of 401k, et cetera, I mean, we're going to get into some of those accounts, but really that's what it's all about. When you see, if you can take a step out and look down bird's eye view at what you want to grow. We just talked about real estate being one or many properties in your portfolio, but then there's also things like a savings account that you have at any of the banks or anywhere you bank, right? You have that savings account. But then there are other accounts like he just mentioned, like IRAs, 401k. So we can actually segue into that as far as, my question here, as far as what general suggestions would you provide? I mean, we can even try to do some scenarios so people can kind of relate and kind of like, oh, okay, I have an idea. Now James can actually help you implement and walk you through that. But I'll let you take it from describing different, investments to have in your portfolio.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think from a bird's eye view, 30,000 foot view, we want to start with the end in mind. So a good example is, imagine somebody's going to climb Mount Everest. Right? Somebody hires a Sherpa to not only get them up the mountain successfully, but also to get them down the mountain successfully. 80% of the death and injuries occur on the decline, right? So imagine we've done a great job of accumulating wealth and building it, but imagine we don't do a good job of being able to take that wealth that you've created and inject it into whatever it may be, investment properties. It could be essentially income in the form of retirement. If we don't do a good job there, it's going to be a bumpy ride, right? And it may be all for naught. So as we look at a high level view, think of it similar to building a home. So whenever you build a home, do you start with the walls, the roof, or the chimney first? What do you typically do? It's going to be the foundation, right? You want to start with the foundation. So whenever you look at foundational planning on in this case, in my point of view, when it looks at investments, or it could be the makeup of one's portfolio, we want to start with the foundation. And that really consists of really 5 main keys. The first one is going to be a savings account, have an emergency fund. You want to have typically anywhere from 3 to 6 months of expenses in that account. Yep. And then the second one is going to be health insurance. Most people have health insurance, so we want to check that box off. Third one typically is what's going to be known as the wage continuation plan. Or long-term disability, in this case, insurance. And that's, hey, if for some reason you can't go to work for a period of time, sickness or injury, 6 months to 2 years, making sure we have money to pay the bills, to be able to put more away into investments, et cetera. The fourth one is going to be the fun word of life insurance. Typically, the clients that we work with are married, they have kids, or they're business owners. And making sure that if something happens to them where they're no longer here, in the case of my dad's story, they make sure there's legacy, right? That money's still moving forward with the previous generation. The last one's the fifth element of the foundation, and that's debt reduction. I believe that there's right ways to pay off debt, and there's actually wrong ways to pay off debt, which we could have another podcast entirely on. But that's really the foundational level. Once we have those in place, then we get to work on the fun stuff and the sexy stuff. And that's really the rooms of the house. So imagine in your home today, David, do you have multiple rooms in your house, or is it just one room?
We do.
Okay. There's multiple rooms. It's not an igloo, right?
It's not an igloo for sure.
Yeah, it's not an igloo. So as we look at that, think of those different rooms as the different investments or assets that one may have. Right? So one large portion of clients' room, a lot of times, maybe their 401k, right? They put money in, they get a match. It's something that a lot of times represents a large portion of the room. Other clients, it's investment real estate, right? They want to have real estate as part of their asset class, and that may be another portion. So those are going to act differently between one another. Same thing as a Roth IRA, or it could be essentially just a regular investment account. So they act differently in the form of taxes first, but also when you want the money. Some of those accounts you can touch before retirement, others you can't touch until retirement. Some will be taxed heavily as they grow, others won't be taxed at all or whenever you take the money out. So by having those different options and optionality, like we saw back in March and April of this year, for those that had the options to take advantage of downturns, they're sitting really, really pretty today, right? And the ones that didn't may not have been as successful. The chimney.
Let me interrupt you real quick. So for people, when we talk about, back in March and April, when there was a huge, market adjustment that kind of affected different portions, real estate, stocks and the equities type of market, right? But for people that did really well for the accounts that we're talking about, I mean, is it something they did, or is it the fact that they're in a Roth IRA, which is basically, in my view, right, a long-term savings account, which it's also from a debt reduction, we can consider that, right? Because you're making money, you're getting tax on the money that you're putting it in, and then now it's growing tax-free, right? So can you explain to me how the people that did well, like, what does that mean? Like, what did they do?
Yeah, great point. So one of the things that we have is a philosophy and essentially a system as it relates to building wealth and investment management. So we want to take out the emotions from investments as much as we can, right? So an emotional investor is a failed one. So as we look, as the market pulled back in March and April, statistically speaking, David, we know that when markets pull back, they're break even at the high again in 3 to 4 years on average.
Right? Make up for the loss, right?
Yeah, they're back to break even. Yep, you're exactly right, in 3 to 4 years. So as we look at some of these accounts with our clients, we want to segment those dollars in different time categories. It's called time-weighted asset allocation, which is a very nerdy word of saying segment into different periods of time on when you need the money. So a good example with those Roth accounts, we know we were not touching those in that case for another probably 20 or 30 years if somebody's younger. Now, with some of these investment accounts that that they want to touch maybe in 5, 6, 7, 8 years down the road, well, we know again, if the markets break even in that 3 to 4 year time period, market pull back 20%, 25, 30%, right? We're not going to be an emotional investor by taking the money out or not doing something. So there, we took some of the safer dollars within that portfolio or cash, we injected it in. We injected it in at 20, 25, 30%, and we bought low. Same with real estate. In order to make money, you got to buy low, right? Sell high, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think it's awesome when we talk about allocation and the, the growth long-term mindset. I mean, I thought you were going to stop at just, in real estate, you buy right, you buy low, and then it was not sell, right? I mean, if you're making, especially in my world, right, guys, in real estate, we're making our money when we're purchasing and acquiring that asset, that investment, this property, right? And so you want to obviously feel good about what the value is there. And we can look back in the history and we can also look back at what we think we could project. But James and I, right, we don't adjust markets. We try our very best to do our calculated judgments and decisions, but we just need to prepare and we need to, but what my point was before I got off on that, man, was just in the accumulation of this stuff, what I'm fascinated by, and I certainly want to influence everybody that I'm within arm's reach and my clients and my people, my family, is when you make money, let's do a really good job at taking care of that. Because if we do not, right, or if we are an emotional investor, meaning we're intimidated about getting started or we don't know what to do, getting an idea of what your options are is the very first start. James Love can help you understand what those options can be. He can help you help you get set up to make big financial decisions. And sometimes with a little bit of help, it's easy to do, it's just getting it set up. And once you're set up, right, like for me, guys, it took me a long time to get certain things set up. And it was a matter of just like, it was a priority, but for some reason I didn't make it one because I needed some help. With James' help, I finally got it set up, and then, now it's putting money in the appropriate spots, I think that's the best thing to do. So
exactly right.
That's good. When it comes to, and obviously everybody's different in what you need, right? So one of the things I just wanted to be clear about is that there's not really a one size fits all, though those were great categories to have, right? The savings and the debt reduction and all that. It depends too, right, where somebody's at as a individual, somebody that may have that might be married with kids or empty nesters, right? So I don't know if you want to elaborate a little bit on that, or if, it's just, there is a difference.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. Yeah, so there's a massive difference whenever it comes to portfolio design or different recommendations with the client. Somebody who's a business owner is going to be different than somebody making constant
Yeah.
W-2 income, right? Somebody that's in a high tax bracket is going to be a lot different than a lower tax bracket. So you're 100% right. And then even on the empty nesters, it's going to be a lot different on spending down that wealth where you're used to essentially just making the wealth and putting money away. So there's a lot of psychological differences there whenever it comes to it. So there's definitely not a one size fits all cookie cutter solution. And that's where we'll come into play and figure out, hey, what's important to that individual? Where do they want to go? What goals, objectives do they have? And make sure we're looking at the most strategic places to do that. And just like you guys, we're going to nudge you, in the right direction is what it is. Yeah.
I think that's fantastic. And again, I think, when you talk about, what is it, time weighted allocation, I love that. I'm gonna try to remember that. That needs to get in my vocabulary. I hold on, James, to the fact that when we can build, right, if we can start now and plant the seed later, which hopefully for everybody, I mean, there's going to be a later and it's going to be much further down, but just really just in enjoying the moments of everything, just being prepared. I mean, everybody, I think it's a fundamental principle that we all need some type of security, right? And I think it's good to take care of it to, at the very least, to be able to do it for your family and for others, to take care of them. And I think that's what can help people potentially do more for others, than themselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And getting started somewhere, right, is the big thing. I mean, Albert Einstein said, compounding interest is the eighth wonder of the world, right? We want to take advantage of time early. It is a big thing. You ask anybody who's in their 50s and 60s, the number one thing that they wish they would have done is, I wish I would have started sooner.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Is what it is. So regardless, whatever stage somebody's at in their life, 20s, 30s, 40s, or 50s, do something, put a stake in the ground, bite the bullet as if you were to go, start working out again for the first time. You're going to look like what the heck am I doing? You're going to wake up the next day, be really, really sore, see no results. And then you keep doing it for a month, 2 months. And all of a sudden, wow, you look, David, you're looking pretty good, man. You look like the new guy, right? And you start feeling good too. So that's exactly what.
Well, and I think it's good too, guys. Listen, I think having somebody be your coach, having somebody that you can come to and help keep the course with, I think you got to surround yourself with people that you're looking to become, as well. And so if this is foreign to you, that's good. Keep leaning in. I mean, seriously, this is some good stuff when it comes to improving your overall well-being, is personally how I believe it, because it's a simple principle, which when you're talking about eighth wonder of the world, by the way, guys, compounded interest. I mean, for anybody that can see this information and, understand what he's saying about starting sooner than later, and you set up these accounts in this portfolio, and you have somebody like James helping you with this on a yearly basis, if not even more frequent, and just letting it kind of do its thing. It's an unbelievable thing to see kind of develop, right, and grow. And just maybe it's just people like you and I, James, who are just fascinated with the money and how it can grow, and how also with money we can do more for others as well. Which one of those for Alyssa and I, when we talk about savings accounts, it's also charity, it's also helping others, it's being involved, and trying to be as selfless as possible. I mean, truly. And so for everybody watching this, I really appreciate it. I mean, James, man, I really appreciate you, and you're very dear to Alyssa and I, you and your wife, Morgan. And I appreciate you taking a moment to chat with me, man. I love the storytelling, and I love, the quotes. You got some good stuff. And I really do encourage people to get in touch with me, or to get in touch with James Love directly. We're happy to make the introductions. But my goal in this webinar with James was to talk about, a financial advisor, and preparing for your future and for your family, and for, trying to make aware what you want. Even in today's world, everybody is still living. And so keep doing that, but also have a little bit of intention. And that's all I was trying to share today. So
appreciate that,
James,
man.
you have anything in closing, man? I appreciate you.
No, I think that's fantastic. Yeah, it's, you become the person that you hang out with, the 5 closest people around you, essentially, right? And so you and Alyssa are definitely in our circle, and some of the peers and and people. So I'm excited to see you guys and y'all success along the way, because you guys are doing great work with your clients, setting up these different type of Facebook Live events. Podcast is fantastic. So keep making an impact and serve your clients well.
I appreciate that, man. We're talking to the world right now. I think I could see how many, wow, I can't even see, so many people are listening and tuning in, and good material, man. I appreciate you. And
Absolutely.
I look forward to seeing you around. I'm going to see if I can end this thing smoothly, but you take care. We'll talk soon.
All right. We'll see you soon.
All right, man. See you.
Bye.